A band of heroes ventures into the shadowed forest to reclaim their homeland. Each wields a regalia, mythic weapons granting power far beyond human limits. They are fully equipped to face the demonic beasts within. However, upon arrival, their driver is instantly obliterated by a dark beast. Instantly, the party mobilizes. Their leader, Stefan, commands formation as they storm the beast's den. The cutlass wielder cleaves through foes with a whirlwind technique. Stefan decapitates a colossal serpent mid-battle, but even headless, the creature lunges. Alicia intervenes, driving her sword through its eye, ending it. With minor resistance cleared, the team descends deeper into the cave in pursuit of the southern beast lord. At the cavern's heart, they encounter Clevetess of the Moonlight. A menacing aura floods the chamber, an omen of devastation. The sheer presence of the beast paralyzes the air. Yet Stefan, brimming with resolve, believes the team's unity will prevail. He was wrong. Unity alone won't save them here. After witnessing Clevetess smear Stefan's blood across the wall, one would question if heroism is even worth it. Yet, the tank believes he can fare better. He leaps to strike, only to be decapitated mid-air. The others finally grasp they're no match in direct combat, but retreat is no longer an option. Clevetess begins eliminating them one by one with his tail. Confused by his speed, they fail to see how he reaches them so effortlessly, until Alicia discerns the tail is attacking through their shadows. She instructs everyone to jump, distancing themselves from their own silhouettes. Thanks to her swift deduction, she narrowly deflects the incoming strike and survives. The others are not as fortunate. One hero drives his spear into the earth, attempting to summon a golem. However, the terrain itself is under Clevetess's dominion. His spell is interrupted as multiple tail spikes erupt from the ground, shredding him instantly. The Lancer charges forward, hoping to overpower the beast. But while he's struggling for his life, Clevetess muses idly, how did such frail beings infiltrate his domain? With disinterest, he exterminates the remaining warriors. Only Alicia remains, soaring through the air, evading every strike with precision. She eventually closes the distance and slashes at Clevetess's face, but even her mightiest blow barely leaves a mark. Meanwhile, Clevetess ponders in disbelief. Why would humans provoke him after a millennium of silence? If they persist, he'll need a permanent solution. But first, he must dispose of Alicia. With one swift motion, he severs her limbs and sends her plummeting to her demise. Shortly after, Clevetess crash lands in the human kingdom, driven by vengeance. He had no intention of interfering, as long as they stayed out of his domain, but their attempt to invade forced his hand. From the hero's final words, it was the king of Hayan who commissioned the assault. Now, Clevetess seeks an audience. The kingdom's archers, alerted to the threat, unleash volleys, yet their arrows are utterly ineffective. Despite the overwhelming disparity, they persist in attacking. Initially, Clevetess had no interest in harming the others, but now that they've drawn first blood, he annihilates them en route to the castle. The royal guards ready their final defenses, launching catapults. Still, their weapons fail. Clevetess tears through the castle walls effortlessly. Inside, a guard rushes to alert the king, but the cacophony already revealed the situation. The king deduces the heroes failed. The sacred weapons of Hayan proved insufficient. He knows Clevetess has come for him. Realizing escape is futile, Clevetess would pursue him regardless. The king resolves to protect what matters. Even in death, he orders the forge sealed so the flames of Hayan may never be extinguished. Outside, Clevetess muses over the fragility of these humans, so feeble compared to the warriors who dared to invade his realm. At first, he assumed it was merely advanced training, but after the castle's guards launched fire and metal ballistas, he realized their true strength lay in their weaponry. Reflecting on the battle, even Alicia's strike, though weak, had managed to scar his horn, an act that should have been impossible. Though humans are mere insects to him, even a stinger can prove perilous. Thus, Clevetess resolves to uncover the source of their armaments. Meanwhile, deep within the castle, the king inspects the forge of Hayan. Suddenly, tremors ripple through the walls. Clevetess is close. In haste, the king seals the forge. Moments later, Clevetess tears off the castle roof. Upon sighting the monarch, he calls him out. The king feigns composure, asserting that Clevetess has no right to address him so boldly. Clevetess warns him to mind his tone. He could erase humanity in an instant, not just Heian, but all neighboring realms. He's already spared the king, knowing a replacement would only reignite conflict. Instead, he offers a chance, demanding to know why the heroes were dispatched, but the king scorns him, declaring a beast could never comprehend human ambition. Clevetess has heard enough. He decapitates the king and begins devising a plan to eradicate humanity entirely. While exiting the ravaged city, he encounters a wailing infant beside its mother, crushed beneath collapsed debris. Unmoved, Clevetess proceeds to walk away, but the dying woman calls out, pleading with him to save her child. Momentarily taken aback by her audacity, he reminds her that he's the one who raised the kingdom and now intends to annihilate all humans. Why would he spare a human infant? The mother acknowledges this, but implores him nonetheless, arguing that the child bears no guilt for the sins of its kind. To Clevetess, the notion of innocence is meaningless. All humans are the same. Still, he indulges her plea, asking if she can prove the child's worth. Knowing she's nearing death, she admits she can't. But she swears that if he spares the child, he will eventually see its value for himself. The woman dies moments later. Clevetess walks away, seemingly indifferent, but returns for the child. Her final words must have lingered in his thoughts. He remains uncertain whether taking the infant was wise. Yet, compared to his eternal lifespan, a human child's life is fleeting. Out of sheer curiosity, he chooses to raise it. In the realm of Ethia dwell 5 humanoid races. First are the Dun, numerous and renowned for their architectural prowess. Next, the Orgits, masters of medicine and expert hunters. Then, the Sladens, amphibious beings adept in aquatic navigation and fishing. The Benti follow, individually formidable, but utterly incapable of cooperation. Lastly, the Kingdom of Heian, once the eldest and most advanced in weapon forging, creators of the legendary blades of Heian. But the kingdom has since perished. Beyond Ethia lies only darkness, an expanse where dark beasts reside, along with the 4 beast lords, one of whom is Clevetess. No human has ever ventured beyond the continent's edge. Back in Clevetess's lair, he returns with the infant. To protect it, he frightens off nearby beasts before curling up beside the child. Now uncertain of his next steps, he considers infusing the baby with his energy to prolong its survival. However, the child is currently soiled. Unwilling to address the mess, Clevetess drops the baby into a spider pit without hesitation. The infant immediately begins crying, a reasonable reaction, surrounded by arachnids, but Clevetess calmly assures him he's in no danger. The spiders in that pit consume only filth, so Clevetess dropped the baby in to get cleaned. That didn't make it any less terrifying. Even after retrieving him, the infant wouldn't stop crying, and Clevetess was growing irritated. Still, as a dark beast lord, he couldn't retract his decision. He had to see it through. To ensure the child's survival, he needed a human caretaker. He approached the corpses of the fallen heroes to assess their utility. Moments later, Alicia awakened, staring blankly at the sky. She recalled her death vividly, assuming she'd reached the afterlife, until she spotted Clevetess and realized she was in his cavern. She instinctively reached for her blade, but Clevetess informed her that all weapons and her comrades' remains had been discarded into the ravine. She looked potentially useful, so he resurrected her. Now, Alicia was essentially an animated corpse, her mobility granted by the dark energy he had imbued her with. That explanation sufficed for now. He instructed Alicia to be of use and produce milk. She hesitated, stunned by the demand. But Clevetess wasn't jesting, nor was it a request. He compelled her compliance through his power. After several minutes of nursing, Clevetess finally realized it wasn't working. Alicia informs him it was futile. She'd never borne a child, and questions why someone like Clevetess would even want to preserve an infant's life. Clevetess offers no explanation. Since Alicia can't nurse the child, she must serve another purpose. The baby won't perish as long as Cleve continues infusing it with energy, but it will remain constantly famished. He demands an alternative source of milk. Bound by Clevetess's command, Alicia advises he'll need a nursing mother, but that requires venturing into a human settlement. In his true form, he'd incite mass panic. Thus, he opts to assume a human guise. With limited reference, he transforms into the likeness of the baby's mother, adopting the name Kren, and names the child Luna. Kren instructs Alicia to guide them to the nearest village. Before departing, they pause so Alicia can wash Luna's blanket. While cleaning it, she notices the royal crest of Haydn embroidered on the fabric. Meanwhile, in the ruins of Haydn, word of the calamity has spread. A scout surveys the devastation, stunned that a single dark beast wrought such ruin. This validates his belief that engaging a beast lord was sheer folly. The timing couldn't have been worse. The assault occurred on the very day the crown princess was to flee the kingdom with her son. By the river, Alicia confronts Kren, asking if he knew Luna belonged to the royal lineage when he took her. Kren is oblivious. Alicia points out that Luna's blanket bore the royal crest, an insignia reserved solely for the royal family. Reflecting on it, Kren recalls retrieving Luna from beneath the castle's ruins, which aligns with her being of royal blood. Still, it doesn't alter his intentions. When Alicia questions what he means by castle ruins, Kren candidly reveals he obliterated Haydn and executed the king the previous night. Alicia is stunned, but Kren reminds her they were the aggressors. He dismisses it as inconsequential, but Alicia argues otherwise. If Luna is the last royal, many will pursue them. Kren asks why. She explains only Haydn's royal bloodline can perform the forging techniques behind their famed weapons. Realizing she's said too much, Alicia stops. Until now, Kren hadn't considered Luna's role, but if he's that pivotal, then perhaps he'll crown Luna the next human king. This way, Kren could manipulate everything from the shadows and eradicate humanity entirely if they overstep. But for now, Luna still needs milk, so he orders Alicia to move. Though Alicia remains unsure why Kren is so invested in Luna, she's convinced that any harm to the child would trigger Kren to annihilate every human alive. Thus, she must ensure Luna's safety at all costs. Clevetess and Alicia arrive at human territory but are swiftly ambushed by bandits. Despite Alicia's warning, Clevetess is struck hard and falls, bleeding. Alicia, horrified, is then knocked unconscious from behind. She awakens in a bumpy carriage, imprisoned alongside Clevetess. Confused by his calm demeanor, she crawls toward him and questions how a single blow could incapacitate someone like him. Clevetess reveals he faked his defeat, not because he was weak, but because he wanted to study human frailty and remain undercover until Luna is crowned King of Haydn. Alicia explains their current situation, captives likely to be sold as slaves by these filthy bandits. Though the bandits are strong by human standards, they rely on dirty tactics. Clevetess grows curious, not just about their strength, but the human condition overall. Eventually, the prisoners arrive at a remote mine. They are separated by gender. When one man tries to escape, a bandit instantly kills him. A bald bandit introduces their group as the Ravens and warns against disobedience. He then eyes Alicia, saying he has plans for her. Clevetess watches in silence as Alicia is dragged away. A harsh blonde woman named Carmel summons him to her cabin, displeased that a child is among the slaves. She calls over another slave, Nell, who stumbles under a pile of linens and is scolded. Carmel orders Nell to care for the child, Luna. Upon seeing the baby, Nell's face softens. Alicia is taken to the acting bandit leader, Brock, who attempts to assert dominance, though many bandits disregard him. To regain control, Brock threatens to unleash his pet dark beast, a troll that obeys and communicates with him. This fear tactic works. Brock confronts Alicia with a sack of aeronite from Luna Mountain, the Dark Lord Clevetess's former domain. He accuses her of being one of the 13 heroes from Haydn, suspecting she's the surviving female warrior. Her stoic demeanor before the troll only strengthens his suspicion. He then brandishes a red-edged dagger. Alicia gasps. It resembles the Argonite weapons forged by Haydn royalty. But Brock admits it's a counterfeit as he profits from trafficking fake magical weapons and slaves. With rumors that the Haydn royal line has fallen, the demand and value for authentic magical relics have soared. Brock plans to use Alicia to retrieve lost weapons once wielded by the fallen heroes. When she refuses to talk, he decides to bring her to Luna Mountain himself. Although some suggest using her for other schemes, Brock deems her too valuable. He even allows the others to enjoy her company, pushing the group closer to recognizing him as their leader. Back at Carmel's tavern and brothel, Clevetess works as a silent server. Carmel remarks that he's too efficient to sell, though his unsettling aura puts her on edge. Meanwhile, Nell suffers constant abuse from the bandits. As she carries rum, a thug trips her. When bottles break, he and another man drag her outside to punish her. They beat Nell until she cries, but as they laugh, both men suddenly cough blood and collapse, silently consumed by Clevetess's shadows. Later, Clevetess speaks to Nell. While she nurses Luna, he asks about her past. Nell reveals she was born among bandits and never knew her father. Her mother protected her from the worst abuses until she disappeared when Nell was 12. Afterwards, Nell was regularly assaulted, losing most of her teeth and partial hearing. When Carmel opened her tavern, things slightly improved. Carmel taught Nell how to handle men quickly to avoid prolonged abuse. Though still exploited, it became manageable. Nell also shares that she began lactating after her stillborn child. While grieving, she woke to find an abandoned baby nursing from her. That moment gave her the will to live. Since then, despite more stillbirths, she remained to help other infants survive. Clevetess, moved, asks Nell to become Luna's wet nurse. Though he distrusts humans, he believes Nell is different. She gently declines, saying she's still needed by other children, and besides, he's a slave too and can't protect her. Elsewhere, Alicia is escorted by two bandits across a high bridge. They mock a man preparing to dive into a lake with a rope tied to him. Alicia, intrigued, learns from their chatter that the man is looking for Cordwire's lost weapon, rumored to be in an old Aranite mine. Suddenly, Alicia remembers tales of hero Cordwire, one of the 13, who vanished in such a mine. She warns the man below not to jump, citing the presence of dark beasts. He doesn't listen. As his wife watches, monstrous fish devour him alive. The bandits laugh cruelly, revealing they never intended to keep their promise of freedom. As they taunt Alicia, a deranged knife wielder prepares to strip her on the bridge. But Alicia has a plan. Thanks to the immortality curse Clevat has placed on her, she dislocates her own joints to break free, kills the man with his own blade, and cuts the bridge rope, sending both of them plummeting into the abyss. In her final thought before the fall, she prays that Clevat didn't lie about her being unkillable. The bandits panic when they see Alicia's seemingly lifeless body at the bottom of the cliff. Their plan had been to use her to lead them to the 13 regalia, legendary items lost to time. But Alicia isn't truly dead. She regains consciousness thanks to the curse of immortality that Clev, placed on her. Though she cannot die, the curse doesn't grant regeneration. Now, paralyzed from the neck down and with every bone shattered, Alicia is trapped, alive but helpless, surrounded by blood and despair. As she struggles to move, the blood in her body rises, and Clevetess manifests himself using blood magic. He appears before her in a small, weakened form, his appearance a result of channeling himself through her cursed blood. Clev explains that her immortality is sustained only by this blood magic. If she bleeds out entirely, she will die for real. However, if she remains useful, he promises to replace her blood and let her recover. Before healing her, Cleve has a question. He tells Alicia he found the perfect wet nurse for Luna, a young woman named Nu, sometimes spelled Naru or Nero. Despite being offered a way out of her abusive life, Nu refused. Clev can't understand why. Alicia believes Nu turned him down because she sees him as a slave, someone who lacks the power to truly change anything. Raised in the brutal environment of the bandit camp, Nu likely believes that escape is impossible and that anyone who tries ends up hunted or dead. When Cleve asks how to resolve this, Alicia bluntly suggests wiping out all the bandits. Only then would Nu truly have a chance at freedom. With Cleve's immense power, she believes it would be easy. But he refuses. Leaving the mountain would risk exposing his territory to invaders. Instead, he orders Alicia, a hero by reputation, to kill the bandits under the guise of a righteous act. Alicia protests, but Cleve silences her and heals her by refilling her body with blood. Soon after, the bandits descend into the mine to find Alicia, only to witness her grotesque healing process, bones snapping into place, tissue reconnecting. They're horrified, but relieved she's alive. They still need her to find the regalia. One bandit attacks her, but Alicia easily defeats him and takes his sword and eye patch. Though reluctant to fight, she knows these men are beyond redemption. Elsewhere, Nu returns to the tavern where Carm, a fellow woman in the camp, scolds her out of concern. Carm hates how Nu is mistreated, but feels powerless. Nu confides that someone asked her if she wanted to leave the camp. Carm, shocked by the dangerous question, slaps her. Words like that could get her killed. Their lives are expendable in the eyes of the bandits. Their fear becomes real when Broco, the sadistic camp leader, walks in, overhearing the conversation. He nonchalantly asks about the baby Luna, then insists Nu come with him. Carm tries to stop him but has no power here. Nu, unaware of the danger, complies. Broco takes her to an abandoned stairwell in the mine, an eerie place filled with skulls. He reveals his past research on magic ores, which he used to create various effects, including controlling demons. His pet monster, Betty, is the result of those experiments. Broco explains that anyone who dreams of escaping must die. He orders Betty to kill Nu. Terrified, Nu flees. As she runs, she regrets rejecting Cleve's offer. At the tunnel's end, she spots Cleve holding Luna, and her last thoughts are of guilt for not protecting the baby. Betty catches her and devours her alive. Cleve watches, silently mourning his failure to save her. Luna begins crying at the horrific scene. Cleve calmly states that this is how the world works. Beasts must eat. He blames himself for not arriving in time, disappointed at losing a potential ally. Broco taunts him, commanding Betty to eat Cleve too. But Betty freezes, terrified of Cleve. Her fear is so intense that she vomits Nu back up. Nu is barely alive, missing limbs and covered in acid, but she breathes. Cleve neutralizes the acid and places Luna beside her so they can share final moments. He then uses his shadows to whisk Luna and Nu away, unnoticed by Broco. When Broco turns back, they're gone, and he suspects Cleve used some unknown magic. Cleve, however, claims he knows nothing of magic. Broco scoffs and tries to use his own magic, lighting a drug-laced fire that emits a vapor. It's designed to make anyone but him lose all reason. Betty inhales it and turns berserk. She lunges at Cleve, and he's hurled across the cave, helpless in his weakened human form. As he crashes, he curses Alicia for not warning him about magic. Meanwhile, Alicia continues her slaughter. She's already downed 8 bandits, but her stolen sword breaks. She needs a better weapon, fast. With around 50 bandits left, fatigue begins to set in. Even as an immortal, she can tire, and if she collapses, she's done for. She dashes toward the lake but sees monsters lurking in the water, waiting. Rather than risk diving in, she climbs to the top of the scaffolding to bait the bandits. As they follow, she cuts the rope, collapsing the structure and sending dozens into the water. The monsters go into a feeding frenzy, devouring the bandits. Alicia escapes by hiding in a barrel. Without needing air, she waits as the barrel sinks to the lakebed, hoping to recover the legendary sword hidden below. After collapsing the scaffolding and letting the monsters devour the bandits, Alicia sinks inside a barrel to the bottom of the lake. Though she cannot die from suffocation because of Clevetess's curse, her body still desperately needs oxygen to function. Every movement feels heavy and slow. Through the murky waters, she notices a faint crimson glow in the distance. Summoning every ounce of strength, she swims toward it. When she gets close, she sees the glow is coming from a legendary sword. Just as she is about to seize it, a massive eye opens beside her. The lakebed shifts. It isn't the ground at all, but the head of an enormous dark beast that has been sleeping beneath the waters. Now awakened, it lunges to devour her. Alicia is caught between its teeth, but in the chaos, she manages to grasp the sword. With its power, she slices herself free, though she is left battered and nearly unconscious from oxygen deprivation. The blade is revealed to be the Regalia Stream Splitter, a weapon whose unique property makes it incredibly effective underwater. By swinging it, Alicia propels herself like a torpedo toward the surface. She bursts free of the water and gasps desperately for air, alive but exhausted. However, the ancient beast follows her upward and begins rampaging, devouring the remaining bandits. Alicia considers fighting, but quickly realizes she stands no chance against such a creature. Fortunately, she doesn't need to. Since this is the bandits' camp, she simply decides to leave them to their fate. As she turns to go, a few surviving bandits beg her for help. Alicia coldly refuses. After all they've done to her, she would rather dance on their graves than save them. The beast finishes feasting on the last of them, and since it is a water-dwelling monster, it has no interest in leaving the shaft. With that, the bandit stronghold is effectively destroyed. Just then, Clevites speaks to Alicia telepathically. Though he cannot see what happened, he senses her mission is complete and commends her. But he admits he has a problem of his own. He is being overwhelmed. Despite being the most powerful of the dark beasts, in his human vessel form, he is vulnerable to something he never anticipated: magic. Broko, the bandit leader, has released a red mist laced with arcanosite, a substance poisonous to dark beasts. While harmless to humans like Alicia, it dulls Clev's enhanced senses. His smell is blocked, and his ears ring constantly. He curses Alicia for not warning him about magic, then orders her to come assist him immediately. Earlier, Broko had forced his pet monster Betty to attack Clev using the mist, but even weakened, Clev's wrath is overwhelming. He calls upon his shadow powers and kills Betty instantly with a single strike, horrifying Broko. The bandit chief realizes Clev's abilities are unlike any magic he's ever seen. Panicked, he flees deeper into the caves. In his escape, Broko stumbles across the broken body of Nu, the young woman Clev had tried to save earlier, whom Betty had nearly devoured. Nearby, the infant Luna sits, crying beside her. Seeing this, Broko concocts a sinister plan. Alicia finally arrives at the center of the caves, short of breath after sprinting through the smoke-filled tunnels. Clev immediately notices the sword in her hands and demands to know what it is. Alicia snaps defensively, declaring she won't give it up. She nearly died retrieving it. To her relief, Clev doesn't care much about the weapon, allowing her to keep it. But the real issue remains: the red mist. Normally, Clev could shift back into his true beast form and blow it all away, but in this cramped cavern, he fears triggering a collapse. And worse, he doesn't know where Luna is. He admits he left the infant under the care of Nu, who was half dead at the time. With his senses dulled by the mist, he cannot detect her anymore. Alicia is horrified. If Luna is dead, she knows Clev will lose what little attachment he has to humanity, likely wiping them all from existence. She realizes she must save Luna at any cost. Elsewhere, Broko drags Nu's limp body while clutching the baby Luna. Earlier, when he tried to grab her, Luna cried so powerfully that it caused his arcanosite lantern to explode, a clear sign of extraordinary magical talent. Broko realizes Luna must be a surviving member of the Haydn royal bloodline, famed for their magical affinity. He now intends to exploit her for his schemes. But Nu, despite being mortally wounded, refuses to let go of his leg, desperately clinging to stop him from escaping with the child. Frustrated, Broko raises a knife to sever her hands. At that moment, Alicia appears and orders him to release Luna. Broko is stunned. He thought she had been locked away, unaware the lake monster devoured the other bandits. Clev also arrives, noticing Nu's sacrifice. Though she is nearly dead, she used her last strength to keep Luna safe. For that, Clev silently acknowledges a debt. Broko realizes he cannot hope to defeat both Alicia and Clev in combat. Instead, he seizes Luna and threatens to mutilate her fingers if they approach. Clev scoffs. Wounds can be healed later, but Alicia insists they must avoid letting Luna suffer such pain. She proposes a deal. She shows Broko the Stream Splitter sword. Upon recognizing the Regalia crest, Broko is ecstatic. Alicia throws it into the wall behind him, telling him he can have it as long as he releases Luna. She even assures him she won't stop him from escaping. Broco laughs at the absurdity. No hero would surrender a regalia so easily. To him, it confirms that Luna truly is of royal blood. Now, emboldened, he demands more. The locations of all 13 regalia. Cleve tells Alicia to comply. Luna's life is more important than a few weapons. Reluctantly, she reveals they lie in the ravine near Clevetess's den, though she doubts Broco could ever reach them. Broco, however, smugly disagrees. He pulls out a vial of powdered arcanocite, sprinkling it over himself. Normally, this dust only grants partial invisibility, but with Luna's raw magical talent amplifying it, Broco turns completely invisible before their eyes. After Broco uses arcanocite powder to render himself invisible, he believes he can escape with Luna undetected, but he underestimates one thing: Luna's loud cries. The infant's wails give away his position. Alicia, sharpening her focus, tracks the sound and suddenly appears before him. With one precise slash, she cuts Broco clean in half. His body falls, and Clevetess swiftly catches Luna, brushing the invisibility powder off her before it can harm her. The immediate crisis is over, but Nu is still clinging to life, barely breathing. Her body is mangled from earlier, and she had used her last strength to stop Broco from escaping with Luna. Alicia turns to Cleve and begs him to save Nu. Cleve hesitates. Restoring Nu would require tapping into his dark ichor, the same power he uses to sustain Alicia's cursed half-life. Worse, Nu is missing massive portions of her body. He would have to rebuild bones, tissue, and organs from scratch. He tells Alicia it might not be worth the effort, but Alicia insists. Nu risked everything for Luna, and without her, they would have failed. Reluctantly, Cleve agrees. He warns Alicia, however, that he will need to withdraw the ichor from her temporarily, meaning she will briefly die again. Alicia accepts, though she mutters that dying still hurts. Hours later, the procedure is complete. Nu awakens, shocked to find her body completely restored, not only healed, but even her old scars and disfigurements from her time as a slave are gone. She looks whole again. Confused, she thanks Cleve, but he tells her to thank Alicia instead. Without her pleas, he wouldn't have bothered. Now that she has been given a second chance, Cleve repeats his earlier offer: to serve as Luna's wet nurse and caretaker. This time, Nu gratefully accepts. The next morning, they prepare to leave the ruined bandit camp. Cleve confiscates Alicia's stream splitter sword, sealing it within his shadow, saying it's too conspicuous to carry openly. Alicia protests bitterly, but Cleve is unmoved. Nu gathers supplies from the bandits' stores, even clothing for Luna. When Alicia teases her about carrying so much luggage alone, Nu explains it feels strangely light. Alicia realizes Cleve must have rebuilt her body with hidden enhancements, though she isn't sure how. Nu offers to carry Alicia's sword, but Alicia admits she doesn't have it anymore. Nu then recalls that Broco kept a collection of blades in his office. Excited, Alicia rushes off to rummage through his desk. With the bandits dead and the slaves long fled, the camp is eerily quiet. Alicia breaks into Broco's office and discovers a stash: money, leather armor, and a well-crafted but ordinary sword. Relieved to be armed again, she prepares to return. But before she can leave, the wall explodes inward. Clevetess is hurled through it, crashing into the desk. Groaning, he mutters that he still isn't used to how fragile a human body is. Through the hole steps Gart, a formidable stranger. At a glance, Alicia can sense his strength. She draws her new blade. Gart lunges with a kick so powerful the air pressure slices her cheek. Though impressed she dodged, he overwhelms her with a barrage of kicks, finally blasting her through the roof with a gust of wind. Alicia staggers to her feet outside, battered but defiant. Gart offers her a deal. He's only here for Cleve, so if she drops her weapon and leaves, he'll spare her. Alicia distrusts him, assuming he's a surviving bandit, and prepares to fight. She clears her mind using techniques she learned from the Haydn style, moving with sharp precision. Her sudden burst of speed surprises Gart, and her sword nearly strikes. But Cleve shouts for her to stop. Bound by his curse, her body freezes. Still lost in bloodlust, she nearly resists, so Cleve knocks her back to her senses. Cleve explains there's no need to fight. This is a misunderstanding. Gart, skeptical, says Nu reeks of troll flesh. He had investigated the caverns earlier and found a troll corpse mutilated as if someone harvested its body parts. To him, this looks like Cleve's doing. Cleve sends Nu and Luna away, then reveals the truth to Alicia. Gart is not human at all, but another dark beast, concealed under powerful illusion magic. Only one being is capable of granting such disguises, Zatier, the dark beast lord of the West. Cleve mutters that he'd prefer to avoid her entirely. Gart is stunned by how much Cleve deduced so quickly. He demands to know Cleve's identity. Cleve refuses to reveal the truth and instead claims to be a servant of the dark beast Clevetess. Satisfied, Gart drops his illusion, revealing his true form, a monstrous bird beast serving Zatier. To prove himself, Cleve unveils one of his shadow tails. That is enough for Gart, who calls a truce. Alicia reels from the revelation. If other dark beasts can pass as humans, then what was the point of the hero's war against Clevetess? Cleve dismisses her paranoia, saying only a handful have this ability, and most wouldn't meddle in human affairs anyway. Still wary, Gart asks why Cleve associates with a human. Cleve lies, saying Alicia is a servant bound to obey him, useful only as a guide. Nu and Luna are the same, he claims. Gart accepts this explanation but warns, if Cleve interferes with his mission, he'll have to kill him. Cleve smirks that it wouldn't be easy. In return, Cleve asks about something Gart mentioned, Zatier planning to wipe out all humans. That surprises him, since Zatier usually enjoyed observing mankind, even being worshipped as a god by Western tribes. Gart explains. Just 3 days ago, he discovered that several dark beasts in the West had lost their children. At each scene, he found strange vials that suggested human involvement. Reporting this to Zatier, she was shocked. After all, she had treated humans generously. But with repeated incidents, she concluded that humans must be kidnapping dark beast offspring. If this proves true, Zatier has sworn to eradicate humanity completely. After piecing together the events surrounding the bandit camp, Clevetess begins to suspect a connection between the dark beast kidnappings and the bandits' trade in human children. He recalls what Carm told him during her interrogation. Every child born in the bandit camp is eventually sold to a mysterious group of men. The deciding factor is always the child's talent, and she implied that the same fate awaited Luna. Clevetess reasons that this talent must be related to magic, and he realizes the kidnappings of beast cubs and human children are likely linked. When Alicia hears him mention magic, her expression darkens. He presses her for more information. She admits that magic is not her area of expertise, but says the abduction of magically gifted children sounds exactly like something the wizards would do. Alicia explains how wizards have completely transformed warfare in the human kingdoms. A single wizard can wipe out dozens, even hundreds, of soldiers with one spell. Entire battles now depend less on armies and more on the wizards each side can field. Though vulnerable to enemy spellcasters, wizards remain an overwhelming force. And it was General Drell, better known as the Dragon Slayer, who first introduced them to the battlefield. Clevetess is puzzled. Why would Alicia waste years pursuing him when the true enemy, Drell, was the one who murdered her father? Alicia's answer is bitter. It was her father's last wish. He wanted her to advance through Clevetess's territory to protect others, not to chase personal vengeance. So she swallowed her grudge against Drell and obeyed her father's dying request. Meanwhile, far away in the human kingdom, General Drell leads an army of 50,000 men southward, aiming to capture the ruins of Haydn and claim them for himself. The shattered remnants of the Haydn army, numbering barely 6,000 and nearly devoid of wizards, are desperately trying to resist. The commander of Haydn's forces tells his officers that their only chance is to retreat into the fortress of Highgate and seal the gates. Reinforcements are at least 3 days away, and even then they may never come. But if they can hold Highgate, they might slow Drell's advance. Still, the commander suspects chaos reigns inside the fortress. He hasn't received any reply to his urgent messages, and he believes he knows Drell's true goal, the royal forge of Haydn, Without it, no kingdom can craft true magic weapons. If the Bolt Kingdom seizes it, their obsession with magical power could grant them weapons and secrets capable of conquering the entire continent. At the same time, Drell confers with his most powerful wizard, Maynard. Maynard confirms that Clevetess was indeed the one who annihilated Haydn, and that all members of the royal family are dead, except for the 6-month-old crown prince, whose whereabouts are unknown. But Maynard has received word from bandits. They've found a baby matching the prince's description. Drell grants him full authority to track the child down at all costs. Back with Clevetess's group, they stop at a nearby town. Nell prepares a strange drink for him, coffee, something she once brewed for Bracco. Clevetess has never heard of it, but after tasting it, he admits he likes it. Nell then asks about the mysterious man who attacked him in the bandit camp. Clevetess explains that after Alicia revealed the truth about wizards, Gart decided to leave and report back to his master. Cleve assures Nell he doesn't expect Gart to attack them again. Soon after, Alicia returns with grim news. She's learned from the villagers that the kingdom of Bolta has invaded Haydn. The Haydn king is dead, the capital destroyed, and the nation cannot possibly survive. The neighboring kingdom of Essen attempted to intervene, but Bolta crushed them with little difficulty. Clevetess doesn't see why this should concern him. He only cares about raising Luna as king, not the fate of Haydn. But Alicia insists it matters. Under Bolta rule, Luna could never become king. Only Bolta-born citizens can rule. And Luna's appearance makes it obvious that he is pure-blooded Haydnite. Worse still, such blood is rare and coveted. The Bolta kingdom uses it to refine arcanosite, the very material that weakens dark beasts. If Drell succeeds, Luna would not only be exiled, he would be hunted for his blood. Alicia then reveals the full truth of Drell's crime. He and her father had once been friends. But years after her father's retirement, Drell sought him out, not for war, but simply to prove himself the superior swordsman. He mortally wounded Alicia's father in a senseless duel, then looked Alicia in the eye before blowing up their house. As Alicia reached for her father's sword, her dying father stopped her. He begged her not to throw away her life in vengeance. Instead, he told her to become a hero who saves people and promised he would always watch over her. This memory still burns in her, but she clings to his last words. Having seen Bracco's cruelty and Drell's looming threat, Alicia tells Clevetess that the only way to secure Luna's future is to stop the Bolte invasion and drive them out of Haydn. Clevetess grudgingly admits she's right. Though he once wanted Haydn destroyed, now he will protect it, for Luna's sake. Still, he orders Alicia to stay behind. He cannot risk people knowing he fights only because of her request. Instead, he will confront Drell under the justification that the general has been kidnapping dark beast children for his wizard army. As he prepares to leave, he turns to Alicia and asks her what she thinks it means to be a hero. Even if she doesn't see herself as one, Nell surely does. After all, Alicia saved her life. The thought makes Alicia pause, realizing he's right. With that, Clevetess transforms and charges into the forest, heading straight toward Drell's army. The Bola army has just broken through the second fortress on their march toward Hayan, and Ro grows increasingly alarmed. If they aren't stopped soon, they will reach Hitat. Racing along the cliffside with Mikkel, Ro points out a shallow river ahead. He believes this may be their only chance to halt or at least slow the Bole advance. Meanwhile, Alicia leads Nell and Luna into the city. As they walk through the streets, they hear the sound of someone being beaten. At first, Alicia considers stepping in, but upon seeing the victim, she realizes it's one of the surviving bandits from her earlier encounters. Uninterested in helping, she steps aside. The townsfolk quickly recognize the man as a bandit who once tormented them and refuse to let him go. Nell grows frightened, as this particular bandit used to torment her, but Alicia reassures her that he wouldn't recognize her now that she has changed so much. However, the bandit does spot Alicia, and in desperation he shouts that she is the hero who released the giant sea beast in the mines. The townspeople glance her way, but Alicia slips out of sight before they can act. Ultimately, the citizens execute the captured bandits, though unease spreads. First, Clevetess attacked, then the Bole army advanced, and now even an ancient sea monster has appeared. Rumors spread of what could come next: radioactive wasps, glacial worms, but the townspeople vow to protect their home no matter what. Later, Alicia and Nell search for lodging. With the town on high alert, finding a place proves difficult. Before entering an inn, Alicia warns Nell not to call her a hero, preferring to keep her identity hidden. Inside, they are immediately confronted by two large men, Phil and Pete, who accuse Alicia of being suspicious. An eye patch, a sword, and a strange child don't help her case. Their mother, Carrie, arrives and scolds them for bothering guests. Carrie asks about the child, noting he seems unusual. Alicia explains that she and Nell are bodyguards, sworn to protect this noble infant at all costs. Though Carrie suspects there's more to the story, she doesn't pry and instead offers them a room for 2 silver coins per night. Pete insists on carrying Nell's luggage but instantly regrets it when the bags prove far heavier than expected. After settling into their room, Nell suggests putting Luna to bed. Unbeknownst to them, one of Maynard's insects has already spotted Luna. With Luna's location confirmed, Maynard prepares to unleash his insect horde. That night, as Alicia looks out the window and wonders if Clean has reached the battlefield, Nell shows her that Luna has grown his first baby tooth. Soon after, Carrie delivers their food. Alicia heads downstairs to retrieve it and overhears townsfolk in the tavern. They blame the heroes for everything. The fight against the Beast Lords led to Clevadis's attack, which destroyed Hyan and provoked Bola's war. Public opinion of heroes has soured completely. Suddenly, Alicia senses a dark presence. A strange ball crashes through the window, landing near Pete. Thinking it harmless, he reaches for it, but Alicia yells for him not to touch it. Too late, the ball expands into a giant centipede, slamming him into the ceiling. Maynard, High Mage of Droll's army, enters. He explains this is no ordinary insect, it hails from the Dark Beast Forest, making it as dangerous as a high-ranking monster. The townsfolk panic, but Maynard declares he is not here to conquer. His true mission is to confirm whether the Hideme infant prince is truly of royal blood. Upstairs, Maynard's subordinate, the telekinetic mage Ne Chiffonite, ambushes Nell. Using her iron manipulating abilities, she pins Nell with bed frames. She explains her power. She can repel or attract iron with immense force, enough to stop a charging bull. To demonstrate, she recalls the tale of a great iron-shelled turtle from the Dark Beast Forest that traps all weapons within its shell. Then, she produces a pill meant to test Luna's magical aptitude. If he possesses royal magic, his eyes will change color and he will survive. Otherwise, he may cough blood and die. Nell desperately pleads with her to stop, but Ne refuses. Hearing Nell's cries, Alicia tries to rush upstairs, only to be slammed into the wall by Maynard's centipede. Upstairs, Ne mocks Nell, telling her she could never overpower the iron frames restraining her. Yet to Ne's shock, Nell musters superhuman strength, shoving the frames aside and knocking Ne unconscious in a single push. Alicia ties the centipede's antennae in a knot, disorienting it, and fights her way into the room. She finds Nell holding Luna, Ne unconscious, and a gaping hole in the wall from Nell's burst of strength. Alicia is stunned, but there's no time to question it. They must escape. She grabs her sword, tells Nell to stay close, and leaps out the window with her. As they descend, Alicia cuts through swarms of insects, carving a path through the night while Maynard watches in amusement. Realizing who she is, he laughs, Alicia Glenfall, one of the 13 heroes, and concludes that the child must indeed be the Hideme prince. By the time Ne Chiffonite regains consciousness, it is already too late to stop Alicia, Nell, and the infant prince. She briefly considers pursuing them, but quickly realizes that the swarming insects Maynard released are indiscriminate. They attack anything in their path, ally or enemy. If she tried to leave the safety of the inn, she would be killed instantly. Meanwhile, Alicia and Nell manage to slip through the chaos and make it outside the city walls. Once beyond the perimeter, the swarm suddenly stops chasing them. Maynard had only ordered the insects to surround the city itself. For a moment, it seems like they have a chance. If they are quick, they might be able to make it through the forest before dawn. But their relief is short-lived. Deep within the woods, they stumble into a second wall of insects. This swarm is even larger and more aggressive than the last. Alicia immediately realizes she cannot simply cut her way through as before. When Nell anxiously asks what they should do, Alicia has no clear answer. For now, all they can do is retreat and find a place to hide. Back at the inn, Nay comes downstairs and reports to High Mage Maynard that the women escaped. Maynard demands to know if she at least managed to test the infant's magical aptitude, but she explains she never got the chance. Nell somehow overpowered her, knocking her out cold with a bed frame. Maynard is stunned. They had severely underestimated both Alicia and Nell. Still, this encounter has confirmed several key details. First, the blonde woman is indeed Alicia Glenfall, one of the 13 heroes. Maynard knows this for certain because he had been present when Drell himself killed her father. Second, no true hero would be traveling with an ordinary baby. This can only mean the infant is the Hydeen prince. The revelation fills Maynard with a sadistic glee. He can hardly wait for the day he gets to capture Alicia and break her spirit. His manic laughter echoes through the tavern, while Nay silently watches him in disgust, wondering why she has to follow such a lunatic. Once he calms himself, Maynard orders Nay to round up all the townspeople and bring them to the main square. When everyone is gathered, the local town leader boldly asks why they've been forced out here, scoffing that mere bugs won't make them submit. Maynard is impressed by their defiance, but makes his intentions clear. He tells them that neither he nor the Bole army would even be here if the foolish king of Hyen hadn't gambled on attacking Clevites. With the capital destroyed, it is possible Clevites himself may return to reclaim the land. Thus, the Bole army is generously stepping in to protect them, a thin excuse to justify their invasion. But Maynard goes further. He warns the citizens that they have a greater enemy among them. The blonde woman they just saw is one of the heroes who started this entire catastrophe. If they want someone to blame for their suffering, then they should start by hunting her down. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Drell's army marches toward the ruined capital of Hyen. As they cross a shallow river under the moonlight, Drell suddenly halts. He senses a presence watching them. Calling out, he orders the stalker to show himself. From the shadows, Ro emerges, driving his spear into the water. Instantly, the entire river freezes solid, trapping the feet of Drell's soldiers. At his command, his forces charge forward. Though vastly outnumbered, Ro's troops wear cleats to keep traction on the ice, while Drell's enslaved dark beasts and soldiers flounder helplessly. Mikkel rallies the men, ordering them to strike down the enemy wizards first, before they can thaw the ice. Drell, however, quickly grasps what has happened. Even the frost spear at full output shouldn't be capable of freezing an entire river at once. Ro must have stationed supporting mages upstream to weaken the current, lowering its temperature before he struck. Impressed, Drell acknowledges Ro's tactical brilliance. The battle intensifies. Ro lunges at Drell, but is driven back by a brutal backhand slash. He retaliates with a blast of ice magic, yet Drell dodges easily, leaving another frozen scar across the battlefield. Their duel rages on, Drell admitting that while the regalia grants power, it still requires true strength and mastery to wield it fully. Ro has grown formidable, but not formidable enough. With a surge of power, Drell fuses his sword with his magic, summoning a dragon's claw out of thin air. Ro is stunned. Regalia are not meant to create physical constructs, yet this claw is real, and it slams him across the river with devastating force. When Ro's soldiers try to intervene, Drell casually annihilates both friend and foe with another sweep of the dragon's claw. Ro is horrified by his ruthlessness, but Drell dismisses the weak as unworthy of seeing the world beyond the shackles of tradition. His true goal, he explains, is to destroy the legend of the heroes. For millennia, the legend has bound people to suicidal battles against impossible odds. Drell intends to shatter that cycle once and for all. He tells Ro that he will not kill him. He has proven himself a worthy opponent. But Ro is too weakened to rise again, forced to watch helplessly as Drell continues his conquest. At that moment, the battlefield quakes as Clevites, the southern lord of the dark beasts, descends from the sky. All fall silent in terror. Fixing his gaze on Drell, Clevetess demands answers. Someone has been kidnapping both human and dark beast children, and word has reached him that it is connected to Drell's twisted magic. If Drell is responsible, then the law of the land demands Clevetess personally execute him. Drell sneers, but Clevetess grows impatient with his talk. With a single thrust of his claw, he impales Drell through the stomach. Yet Drell does not falter. He had expected this, and prepared. A third eye opens on his forehead, unleashing his ultimate spell, Dark Eclair Prison. His body explodes in a storm of blood, and Clevetess is suddenly trapped within a massive sphere of dark energy. Ro watches in horror. Even the 13 heroes had failed to defeat Clevetess, yet Drell has just sealed him away. Though Drell's human body is destroyed, his consciousness now resides within his blade, his existence transformed into pure magic. He declares that even Clevetess will eventually wither away inside the prison, leaving the world unchallenged before his might. As his army regroups, Drell orders them to continue their march. His mission is far from over. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Alicia and Nell press on, still pursued by the threat of Maynard's insects and now by angry townspeople, driven to hunt them down under Maynard's command. As Alicia senses an ominous disturbance far away on the battlefield, though she cannot yet know it is Clevetess's fate, she tells Nell they must keep moving, and so, their desperate flight through the night continues. While Alicia, Nell, and the infant Prince Luna hide deep within the forest, a group of angry townspeople begin tracking them under Maynard's orders. The villagers know this forest better than anyone. They've lived here all their lives, and they are determined to hunt her down. As they search, they vent their hatred for the so-called heroes. They shout that heroes have always been parasites, living off their taxes and doing little more than occasionally killing a stray dark beast, all while basking in praise as saviors. Now, after everything that's happened, the destruction of Hyen, the loss of their livelihoods, they are ready to see a hero dead. They surround the watermill where Alicia is hiding, demanding that she come out. Alicia knows they would eventually corner her since she couldn't leave town without passing through Maynard's swarm, but she didn't expect the villagers to find them so quickly. For now, the insects haven't reached the area, which gives her a slim window to act. She orders Nell to stay away from the windows and keep Luna hidden. His safety is all that matters. Outside, Phil, one of the villagers, grows impatient and declares he'll burn the entire building down if Alicia doesn't come out. Just as he's about to set it aflame, his brother Pete stops him, saying he's going too far. Their father, Mark, intervenes, striking Phil to make him drop the torch. Mark reminds everyone that their ancestors built this watermill centuries ago, and he won't allow it to be destroyed out of blind rage. He agrees that Alicia must be dealt with somehow, but he refuses to do so under the orders of some foreigner who controls insects. Mark steps forward, introducing himself as the one responsible for the town's defenses. He promises Alicia that if she comes down to speak with him, no harm will come to her. He just has a question to ask. Alicia, realizing she has little choice, reluctantly agrees. When she steps outside, Mark immediately asks her what happened to her regalia. Alicia admits she no longer has it. It was lost during her battle against Clevetess himself. She and the other heroes were utterly annihilated, and she understands why the townspeople would hate her. To her surprise, Mark doesn't attack her. He says that had she sold her regalia and abandoned the mission, he would have killed her without hesitation. But if she truly fought and simply lost, he cannot condemn her. The impossible mission wasn't her choice. It was the king who insisted on following the centuries-old tradition of sending heroes to die. Mark then asks what she thinks they should do now. Should they continue clinging to that tradition and try to push beyond the Dark Beast territory, or give up and resign themselves to their limited world? Alicia recalls her fight with Clevetess. How, even as she was torn apart and flung through the air, she caught a glimpse of the world beyond. It was vast, endless, and round. Despite her failure, she believes they must never stop striving to reach that greater world. There are truths and opportunities that can only be found by taking that leap. She admits she recently met someone arrogant and terrifying who opened her eyes to how small her world had been. Now that she knows there's so much more beyond, she refuses to accept that their struggle has no meaning. Mark is moved by her conviction. He tells her she's free to go, he'll handle calming the others, but warns that she'll still need to find her own way past Maynard's insect barricade. Before he can leave, Maynard suddenly appears, riding atop his giant centipede. Infuriated that Mark spoiled his fun, Maynard cuts him down in front of everyone, mocking him for forgiving the last surviving hero. Alicia reacts instantly, slicing the centipede apart, but Maynard escapes, summoning the full swarm to attack. The town is now in mortal danger. Alicia orders everyone to barricade themselves inside the watermill while she holds the line outside. Maynard taunts her, impressed by her stamina, but confident she can't last. His swarm includes venomous bees, blood-destroying spiders, and burrowing ants, and while Alicia focuses on the massive insects, the smaller ones slowly poison her. The toxins begin to overwhelm her. Her body trembles, and she realizes that her immortality from Clen's dark acre blood is compromised. If the poison destroys that black ichor in her veins, she'll die. Amid the chaos, Maynard reveals his hatred for heroes stems from childhood. He once idolized them, but after losing his entire family in a fire while heroes did nothing to help, he's hated them ever since. Now, he delights in her suffering. As Alicia falters, she suddenly hears a familiar voice, Clen's, speaking from within her chest. His shadowy form emerges briefly, urging her to finish quickly because he needs her elsewhere. Inside, the villagers and Nell desperately seal the mill's cracks, stomping on any bugs that slip through. Luna's presence spurs them to fight harder. Outside, Maynard summons his ultimate weapon, a giant subterranean scorpion, and hurls Alicia into the river. Beneath the surface, Clen manifests fully, telling her that while the poison weakens Dark Acre, it won't kill her outright. Still, she can't regenerate until it fades, leaving her vulnerable. Above, Maynard threatens to slaughter everyone in the watermill if she doesn't surface soon. Meanwhile, strange larvae hatch across the forest, devouring everything. Their purpose isn't to defeat Alicia. They're simply Maynard's spiteful method of destroying the villagers' livelihoods. As the larvae consume the forest and begin chewing through the mill's roof, Maynard laughs about his two birds one stone plan. Determined, Alicia bursts from the river, but she's too late. Many larvae have already pupated, and moments later, a storm of giant moths emerges, blinding her with their scales. Nearly helpless, she's knocked aside by the scorpion. Seeing she's on the brink of death, Clen finally intervenes fully, pulling Stream Splitter, her regalia, from his shadow. Maynard panics at the sight. It looks unmistakably like a regalia. Clen instructs her, all living things are mostly water, even insects. Treat them like a river. End this quickly. Alicia obeys, taking the blade. With one swing, she vaporizes the swarm around her. Then, summoning the last of her strength, she performs Flowing Water Slash, unleashing a wave of energy that annihilates every insect in the forest. In town, Nay Chiffonite witnesses the distant cloud of insect gore and is stunned. Someone wiped out Maynard's entire swarm in seconds. With his swarm destroyed, the magic stone in Maynard's chest cracks. Now powerless, he tries to bluff defiance, but Alicia knocks him out without a word. Exhausted, she collapses. When Nell reaches her, she finds Clen's clone carrying Alicia. He scolds her for wasting so much time on a weakling and says they must leave immediately. The situation has changed. This isn't the real Clen. It's a clone formed from the Dark Acre within her. The real Clen has been sealed in a blood prison by Drell. When Alicia asks if Clen at least defeated Drell, the clone admits grimly that Drell may now wield the power of a dark beast lord, making him far more dangerous than ever. And in the ruins of the once prosperous kingdom of Haydn, evacuation efforts are underway as surviving citizens are moved into underground bunkers. Around 80% have been successfully relocated, but Queen Tala refuses to leave. Despite pleas from one of the elders to retreat and ensure the continuation of the royal line, Tala insists on remaining until she finds her missing son, Prince Luna. The elder questions her certainty that Luna is still alive, given the lack of evidence since the kingdom's destruction. Tala explains that the Forge of Haydn, a sacred magical forge tied to the royal bloodline, still burns with a bright red flame. Since it should have gone dormant upon the king's death unless another royal heir survived, she is convinced Luna is alive, and protecting him until he can wield the forge is her utmost priority. Talla laments that this tragedy could have been avoided. She foresaw Clevatessa's attack through a premonition and knew the heroes would fail against the Dark Beast Lords, but she missed the opportunity to flee with Luna beforehand. At that moment, her loyal messenger Fabio returns with grim news. Drell, a former hero turned warlord, led an army of 50,000 against Aeson at the Morel River. Aeson's forces fought valiantly but were overpowered by Drell's devastating magic. However, Clevatesse suddenly appeared mid-battle and obliterated half of Drell's army. In a shocking twist, Drell somehow trapped Clevatesse inside a strange red sphere, neutralizing him entirely. Now Drell and his remaining 20,000 troops are marching toward Haydn. This revelation alarms Talla deeply. Someone capable of defeating a Dark Beast Lord is far beyond what tradition has prepared them for. Fabio suggests that since Drell is technically a former hero and still wields a regalia, he might fulfill the prophecy of a hero who can challenge the darkness. But Talla rejects this notion outright. A man who invades nations and massacres innocents cannot be the prophesied savior. She declares that she will shatter Drell's regalia herself, using Haydn's sacred hammer, the only artifact capable of forging or destroying a regalia. Though traditionally only a reigning king may wield it, with the king dead, she asserts her right to take up the hammer as Haydn's protector. Her attendants arm her for battle as Fabio retrieves the weapon. Alicia, having recently annihilated Maynard's swarm, is finally able to regroup. Pete drags Nay, the insect-controlling mercenary, to her as requested. Pete is still in awe of Alicia's feat and even pledges to serve as her personal errand boy. Amused but practical, Alicia asks him to fetch Nell as well. Alicia questions Nay about Drell and whether she's seen signs of Dark Ichor, the living, sentient blood unique to Dark Beast Lords. Nay, visibly disgusted, insists she's never encountered such a thing. Alicia senses her honesty, but Clen, the fragment of Clevatesse residing within her, believes otherwise. What Drell used to seal Clevatesse was almost certainly Dark Ichor, implying that a Dark Beast Lord is secretly backing Drell. With Clevatesse incapacitated, potential culprits include Zathier of the West, Wrathwell of the South, or Varden of the North, powerful Dark Beast Lords who may have turned against Clevatesse. Clen's strategy is to keep his weakened state secret, letting Drell's allies believe he is still trapped to gain an advantage later. Nay, annoyed at being held captive, manages to slip free from her restraints using her magnetic abilities. She takes advantage of a passing carriage carrying Nell and Luna, knocks out its drivers, and attempts to kidnap them to appease Drell. However, her triumph is short-lived. Clen nonchalantly appears beside her mid-flight, and Alicia presses her sword to Nay's throat. They reveal that the kidnapping opportunity was a setup to use Nay's powers to transport them straight to Haitat, where Drell's forces are gathering. With no leverage against Alicia's Haydn-forged sword, Nay reluctantly surrenders and agrees to take them. As they depart, the villagers cheer Alicia on, grateful for her bravery. For the first time since becoming a hero, she feels she's truly earned the title. Clen teases her about her smugness, but Alicia takes pride in her hard-won victory. Crossing the mountains, they see Haitat, Haydn's capital, already under siege. On the castle walls, Princess Talla and Haydn's elite magic sword knights prepare to confront Drell. She urges them to use their enchanted blades, second only in power to Regalia, to bring him down. Despite their determination, they are no match. Drell, standing alone atop the battlements, dismisses their efforts as irritating. The knights launch a coordinated assault, but he casually transforms his body into a living sword, slicing through them effortlessly. Shield-bearers are obliterated in moments, and the archer's best shot misses completely. In an instant, Drell crushes the defense line and seizes Talla by the throat, mocking her for thinking she could save Haydn. He declares that with the royal bloodline extinguished, Haydn's legacy will end forever. But before he can finish her, Alicia's carriage crashes into the battlefield, creating the distraction Talla desperately needed. Seizing the moment, Talla strikes Drell's blade form with the sacred hammer, aiming to destroy his regalia. From a distance, Clem and Nell watch. Nell worries for Alicia, but Clem reveals his true goal. He never intended for Alicia to defeat Drell, only to keep him occupied. While Drell and his mysterious ally aim for the Forge of Haydn, Clem intends to reach it first. Using Luna's royal blood to break its seal, he can secure the Forge's power for himself. Guided by Clem, Nell smashes through the castle wall with her troll-enhanced strength, startling the guards stationed within. Clem swiftly dispatches them with his shadow powers, then places Luna's hand upon the Forge's seal, unlocking it. A short while later, a guard descends to examine the bubble imprisoning Clavates. He is certain Clavates should have shattered it with ease, yet he remains trapped. Gart strikes the bubble, but its density proves unyielding, far beyond his strength. At that moment, Rode emerges and introduces himself, having witnessed Gart's descent from the sky, which he assumes to be his magic. He requests a favor, transportation to Haydn's capital, where Drell and his army have likely begun their assault, and he must intervene. The guard intends to dismiss him, recalling from afar Rode's humiliating defeat against Drell. He questions why Rode would not seek a rematch now. Rode knows he cannot prevail, yet Drell must be stopped before seizing the Forge of Haydn. If Drell wields its power, catastrophe will engulf the realm. The mention of magic stirs Gart's memory of Zathier's warning. If disaster looms, perhaps using Rode as cover would serve his mission. Gart agrees to take Rode to Hitat under two conditions. Rode must assist him afterward, and he must never inquire about Gart's identity. When Rode asks what happens if he disobeys, Gart vows to kill him. Rode refuses any betrayal of his homeland but accepts the rest. Unfurling his wings, Gart orders him to hold on, or be left. Rode grips Gart's ankle, and they set off for Hitat. Meanwhile, in the capital, Clem struggles to unseal the forge with Luna's aid, to no avail. Breaking in seems unwise, so he resolves to enter from above. Entrusting Nell with Luna, he ascends the furnace chimney. The searing heat would reduce any ordinary dark beast to ash, but Clem is no ordinary being. Without hesitation, he plunges inside. Outside, Nella is confronted by a strange man, and upon turning, she is utterly horrified. Meanwhile, Clem, halfway down the chimney, realizes the heat is unbearable. He hides within the shadow of a loosened brick, marveling at the forge's immense power even dormant. He longs to glimpse inside, but knows he would be incinerated instantly. Suddenly, he notices the forge doors ajar. More alarming, Nell lies unconscious outside, and Luna is missing. Moments later, the same mysterious man emerges from the chamber's corner carrying Luna, revealed to be the King of Haydn, though his corpse-like form should be long dead. Elsewhere, Alicia remains locked in combat with Drell, struggling to withstand him. Drell mocks her weakness compared to her father, and though she despises the truth, she can scarcely match him. Knocked into his soldiers, she dismisses them as trivial and searches for Drell, spotting him advancing toward the castle. She immediately pursues. As Drell lands atop the wall, the queen and her few remaining soldiers unleash arrows, but he slices them apart with ease. The volley proves futile, yet delays him just long enough for Alicia to strike with a rising sword slash. Unfortunately, Drell himself devised that technique, effortlessly blocking and retaliating with the devastating dragonfly sky slash, launching hundreds of blades toward her. To his astonishment, Alicia survives intact, prompting him to commend her talent as the swordmaster's daughter. Alicia rejects his hollow praise, raising her blade and demanding the truth of his battle with her father, and why Drell slew him. Drell reveals that her father, Margot, was once his comrade, training alongside him in the same sword school and rivaling him for the title of hero. Alicia is stunned, never having heard this, and Drell is equally astonished at her ignorance. Sheathing his blade, he offers to recount how he became known as Drell the Dragon Slayer and how Margot abandoned the path of hero. 25 years earlier, Drell and Margot faced each other in a tournament to decide the wielder of the first regalia forged by the King of Haydn. Though close friends, they vowed to fight with everything. By the duel's end, Margot triumphed. Despite bitter disappointment, Drell accepted defeat with grace, congratulating his friend. Declared champion, Margot was granted both the title of Swordmaster and the regalia. The king decreed that upon accepting the blade, Margot must fulfill a hero's duty to battle dark beasts and safeguard humanity. Margot accepted. When he unsheathed the sword, power coursed through him, yet the king warned the weapon was incomplete. Each regalia possessed a soul, and the first being slain by its edge would be bound within it. Thus, Margot must choose his first target wisely. Soon after, Margot and Drell met at a tavern to discuss the future. Margot planned to form an expeditionary force for his first mission, intending to confront only weaker foes, fearing the calamity if his first kill were a dark beast of plague. Speaking of his first kill, Margot tells Drell he intends to target one of the northern dragons. Alarmed, Drell leaps up, warning him not to be reckless. He understands Margot's desire for a formidable soul to bind within the regalia, but northern dragons serve the dark beast Lord Van, and confronting them now would be certain death. Moreover, they dwell in the frozen mountains, terrain impossible to endure with an incomplete regalia. Margot insists it is the only path if he aims one day to challenge a dark beast lord. Though doubtful of Margot's chances even against a common dragon, Drell deemed it madness to face one of Van's servants. Legends spoke of heroes defeating the dark beast lords, but Drell never believed them. Yet he knew Margot was the mightiest swordsman alive. If anyone could succeed, it would be him. Rising, Margot urged they begin preparations for the expedition. Confident in their victory, Margot miscalculated the peril. The icy mountains proved brutal, and though they quickly sighted a dragon, it immediately spotted them and unleashed a torrent of incendiary bile. That single strike obliterated the expedition, leaving only Drell and Margot. Drell urged retreat, but fleeing would only provoke pursuit. Their only option was to slay it before it slew them. The dragon's aerial tactics kept it out of reach. Pressed for a solution, Margot devised a desperate plan. He told Drell to strike him with the rising dragon technique. Risky, but their only chance. Trusting him, Drell charged and launched Margot skyward with the technique. Soaring above the beast, Margot slashed downward, shredding its wings. The dragon plummeted, and at last, it was Margot's moment to strike. Drell could only watch in awe as Margot unleashed a masterful assault upon the beast. Even wingless, the dragon remained fearsome, yet Margot proved fiercer still. Each strike grew sharper, more precise, and for a moment Drell believed victory was within reach. But tragedy struck. As Margot moved to deliver the final blow, his foot snagged on a rock for but an instant, enough for the dragon to seize the opening. Its claws tore his foot away, along with any hope of triumph or heroism. Accepting his fate, Margot hurled his sword to Drell and shouted for him to finish it, moments before being crushed beneath the beast. Barely comprehending, Drell seized the regalia and charged the wounded dragon. With Margot's damage already done, he cleaved its head clean off. Stunned by his own feat, he turned to tell Margot of their victory. Yet at once, the regalia absorbed the dragon's soul, flooding Drell with overwhelming power. Then, a dreadful presence descended, Dark Beast Lord Van, drawn by the chaos. In the next heartbeat, Drell awoke in a pool of his own blood, body somehow intact. He carried Margot and one survivor back to the city. Thereafter, Margot abandoned the path of hero and lived quietly until Drell slew him. Though hailed as Dragon Slayer and hero, Drell's doubts endured. He believed the legends were lies, their vital truths concealed by the royal house. The queen cannot comprehend Drell's words, yet nothing could sway his resolve. Alicia asks if magic is what the legends concealed, and Drell affirms it, claiming the voices in his head have told him so since his encounter with Vordan. Knowing his path, Drell invokes necromancy, summoning an undead dragon skeleton. He rides it to strike Alicia from the wall before soaring away toward the forge. On the ground, Alicia survives the fall, though her arm and leg are gravely injured. Using dark ichor, she mends them through searing pain. She reaches out to Clen through their mental link, warning that Drell approaches the forge. But Clen silences her, focused on the scene before him, the King of Haydn preparing to cast his grandson into the forge. Alicia asks Clen for clarification, but before he can reply, Queen Tala approaches. She expresses relief at seeing Alicia alive, believing she had perished at Clevetessa's hands during a mission. She inquires if any other heroes survived, but Alicia sorrowfully reveals she alone returned. Though disappointed, Tala feels immense relief that Alicia lives. Given Hititet's fragile state, they can only resist Dill's forces, yet none of their soldiers can withstand his overwhelming sorcery. Their sole hope rests on Alicia and her regalia. Thus, Tala entreats her to confront Dill for the kingdom's sake. Alicia vows to do her utmost, but first, she has grave news. Tala's son lives, concealed nearby. Tala freezes in disbelief, for no word of her son had ever surfaced. Alicia insists Luna must be her child, his royal blood unmistakable. Overjoyed, Tala begs Alicia to take her to him. Yet Alicia warns it is perilous, promising instead to bring Luna back. Still, that is not enough. Tala may be queen, but above all, she is Luna's mother, and if he faces danger, she cannot remain idle. Moved by her resolve, Alicia consents to bring her along. Meanwhile, within the forge, the king's decapitated body prepares a sacrifice. Clem merely observes, intent on discovering the outcome. When it becomes evident he intends to cast Luna into the forge, Clem seizes his arm to halt him, demanding if this is truly how a grandfather should treat his grandson. The king knows how abhorrent it is. In truth, he has no desire to proceed. Yet his body is not his own. His actions are dictated by the forge's will, which requires Luna's immolation to forge him into the next king. For generations, heirs have been consigned to the flames, reduced to ash, only to be resurrected with new bodies bound to the forge's command. Traditionally, after the naming rite, the heir's name is inscribed upon the forge, and the child is compelled to leap within. However, Clevatus's assault occurred before Luna's name could be engraved, leaving the forge unable to summon him. Thus, it revived the late king's corpse to hurl Luna inside. Planet then asks if this means the king himself was once forced into the forge and remade as its thrall. The answer is yes. The same fate awaited Luna's father, but, horrified at the prospect of bondage, he chose Heramise, plunging from the castle walls to his death. The king decries it as folly, for by ending his own life, the burden merely shifted to the next heir. Thus, the ritual endures, and the king casts Luna into the forge, reducing him to ash in an instant. Meanwhile, outside, Drell soars upon his dragon, convinced by the voices in his mind that the only way to save the world is to annihilate it by unleashing what lies within the forge. On the ground, Alicia urges Tala onto her back to hasten their approach. As they advance, Tala confides that, never being a true sovereign, much was concealed from her. When her husband was chosen as heir, he ended his life. Yet before doing so, he told her one thing: the true heroes are gone, and the current generation can never vanquish the Dark Beast Lords. At the time, Tala failed to grasp his meaning, but perhaps he was right. Hyan's history spans millennia, yet no record exists of anyone nearing victory over a Dark Beast Lord. Indeed, there is no proof their defeat would even permit exploration of the world. Tala now questions who first forged this legend. She once sought answers from her husband, but he only gave a sorrowful smile, unable to speak. She believes the kings of Hyan have concealed the truth for generations. If that is true, then the former king dispatched Alicia and the other heroes fully aware they lacked the strength to prevail. To Tala, such recklessness was irresponsible. Yet Alicia replies she would have gone regardless, for to her it was more than slaying a Dark Beast Lord. It was about confronting the impossible with a hero's resolve. That is how she intends to live until she ends the cruel cycle. Drell, however, surrendered to despair, forsaking the hero's path to destroy all. Alicia desires vengeance for her father, but above all, she must stop Drell to prove her creed of living as a hero. Tala calls her a great hero, though Alicia insists she is weak, far beneath Drell, nowhere near the Dark Beast's might, yet unwilling to yield. She once considered abandoning the path, but someone stopped her, and that very person now wears a wide grin, amused by the absurdity of the moment. The king of Hyan has just consigned Luna to the furnace, or so he believed. The one burned to ash was merely a shadow clone crafted by Ken, while the real Luna remains cradled safely in Clen's arms. Clen mocks the king, asking what will happen now that he has failed the forge's command. The king utters nothing, only stares as his body tilts backward and plunges into the flames. Watching him turn to ash, Clem is surprised, yet certain this is far from over. He bellows for the master of the forge to reveal himself and face him. Moments later, immense flames erupt from the forge, shattering the mountainside in a violent explosion. Drell witnesses the blast, and the voice in his mind urges him to act swiftly, warning there is no time to lose. Alicia and Tala see the forge erupt and Drell racing toward it, filling Tala with dread for Luna's safety. Alicia commands her to stay back, declaring the danger far too great for the queen's involvement. She trusts Clem would never allow Luna to perish so easily, but if Drell reaches them first, the outcome could be dire. Just as he nears the forge, Gart descends from above, releasing Rode as promised. Rode cries out Drell's name, vowing to stop him. He ignites his spear, forming a colossal spike of ice at its tip, and hurls it forward. The frozen javelin pierces Drell's dragon, while Gart, intrigued by the spectacle, lingers aloft to observe. When they crash to the ground, a vast dust cloud engulfs the field. Rode wonders if his strike truly felled Drell. Yet as the haze clears, he realizes Drell deflected the blow. Rode is flung aside, and Drell moves to finish him, until Alicia suddenly intervenes, striking Drell's blades away. Frustrated by unrelenting interference, Drell resolves to end it swiftly and prepares to confront them both. Alicia and Rode regroup, and as it is their first meeting, Rode asks if she is a hero. Alicia affirms, and they quickly exchange introductions. There is little time for talk, as Dill still looms before them. Rode asks if he can count on her to fight beside him, to which Alicia replies she intended to ask the same, for alone, neither could prevail. Drell scoffs, amused they believe an alliance could tip the scales. He declares their strength shackled by mortal flesh, while he is unbound. In a flash, he appears behind them, his slash so devastating it hurls both into the air. He follows with another strike, then ascends and drives his blade into Alicia's chest. Seizing the moment, Rode attempts a surprise attack, but Drell anticipates it, seizing his wrist and casting both him and Alicia back to the earth. Hovering above, he glares down in contempt before descending to finish them. With little time, Alicia urges Rode to unleash his ice javelin once more. Though puzzled, he trusts her and calls forth the frozen spear. As expected, Drell evades with ease, insulted by such a predictable strike, until he realizes Alicia has vanished from the ground. She had leapt upon the ice javelin itself, using it to vault behind Drell and seal his escape. Rode expends his remaining strength to freeze Drell's feet, granting Alicia the chance to descend and cleave him in two. Yet Drell is scarcely hindered, for his true essence now resides within his blade. The sword whirls through the air, severing Alicia's arm before hurling her to the ground. Rode rushes to catch her, only to see Drell's body reconstitute from his dark ether above. Drell commends their resolve, yet derides it as futile, declaring they can never be true heroes. The very need for humans to implant magic stones proves their inferiority. He tells Rode and Alicia that all humanoids of this continent are lesser beings, shadows of the true humans who once ruled the world. Both present humanity and dark beasts are mere pawns in the true human's endless game, which will persist until shattered. That is why Drell seeks to burn the hollow legend of heroes to ash and begin anew, committing whatever atrocities are required until that day. Through his bond with Alicia, Clem hears every word, finally discerning Drell's intent and, by extension, the will of his master, Varden. Clem had never encountered the true humans Drell spoke of, so he assumes they vanished before his ascension as Dark Beast Lord. That implies the book must be one of the final relics of their legend. The moment it appeared, the entire forge vanished, revealing it was the book itself that compelled the kings of Hyen to end their lives and even resurrected them as puppets to serve its purpose. He wonders if every event thus far stemmed from the book's manipulation of Hyen's royal line. Alicia and the other heroes' assault on the southern beast forest, the war among human kingdoms, even his own desire to eradicate mankind, all orchestrated to lead him here. Clem laughs at the absurdity and at himself for being deceived so easily despite his stature as Dark Beast Lord. Lacking the memories of his predecessors, he suspects his role was forged solely to oppose the elusive true humans Drell mentioned. If so, then everything he believed about the world was a lie. Reflecting further, he questions why he even troubled himself with the infant at all. Setting Luna down, he turns away, abandoning all interest in humanity's destruction, or even association with them.